Wow, that was impressive.
I don't get nervous for live lessons that often, but that song makes me nervous because it's so constant and difficult.
Yeah, wow. Welcome here, guys. Welcome to another Guitareo live lesson. Today we're talking about DADGAD.
Yep.
DADGAD tuning specifically. Nate, if you can breathe, what the heck does DADGAD actually mean?
Give me a second, because I was hitting this bench the entire time I was playing. That was where the percussion.
The percussion was coming from. Yeah, some Andy McKee stuff. I like it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, first of all, if you have any questions, get them in now, please, because the last few times they've just had a little bit of a delay getting the questions in through the system, and we've missed a couple. We've had them reply to by email. So if you have any questions about alternate tunings or the guitar in general,
get them in right
now. Get those in now. DADGAD tuning is something that I really like, but I don't use a lot. Okay. Just because, I don't know, it's a nuisance for me. I was like, oh, I want to be back in standard right now. It's just a tuning that, it's very drony. Here's what it sounds like with no notes fretted or anything.
Well, why is it even called DADGAD?
It's very, that's exactly what I thought the first time, because I was telling, man, this thing just keeps hitting this. Hold on, let me move this up a little bit for you guys so it doesn't keep clicking. The first time I heard of DADGAD, it was from an Italian guy, and he was like, DADGAD. I was like, what? So DADGAD, that's just the name of the E, A, D, G, B, and E strings.
It's literally the names of the strings.
D, A, D, G, A, D. Yeah. And when I learned about it, I learned it in a very kind of solo acoustic guitar context, kind of like the thing I just played. And so for a long time, players like Beppe Gambetta, Phil Keggy, Andy McKee, Don Ross, who was out here several months ago, those were the kind of players that I associated with DADGAD, just because that's how I first learned about it, and I kind of sought it out. As soon as I heard an acoustic guitar player that I was into, I'd be like, oh, I bet he's using some kind of alternate tuning. Right. And a lot of times, they use DADGAD. But it's not just limited to acoustic guitar, not just limited to the kind of Celtic or, finger style usually, is what I think of when I think about this for like flat picking. As Andrew will show you later, he has a really kind of a bluesy bass, and a lot of Led Zeppelin, not a lot of Led Zeppelin, but Led Zeppelin was known for it too, so it's rock too.
Absolutely.
So it's just a really fun way to kind of experiment in a new way with guitar, because I literally have no idea what I'm playing the entire time when I was playing that song.
Like theory-wise?
Theory-wise, I mean, I can hear it go from 1 to 4 to 5 as far as chords, but like shapes, scale shapes, nothing. I just wrote that and I learned it. So I'm not flying blind, but I know that piece, and I really don't know much else in DADGAD. And
the cool thing about DADGAD, it was the first open tuning that I ever heard of and experimented with, because it's so accessible, because you actually don't need to change any of the strings on your guitar to make it feel right. You went up a gauge for this, right? But a lot of people, like for me, I've got 12s on my acoustic, and it's nice because you're just dropping 3 strings, right? That's all you're doing. So you're not putting any extra tension, and you're not going so far down that things will get too flubby. So it does still feel pretty good. And the nice thing about it, it's not major or a minor chord when played open. It's like a sus2 chord or something, right? I think it's sus2 chord. So it's nice because it doesn't have a major or minor tonality, which makes it easy to play. Because if you were in like an E major open tuning, all of a sudden playing a minor chord becomes a little bit weird. Anyways.
Sus4. G.
Sus4?
D, F, G, yeah. I just went through it in my head. There you go. Cool. Let's see, what else was I going to say about DADGAD? So if you want to, this is a really great good way to kind of spark some creativity in your playing and force yourself to figure out what's going on in your head. If you've already learned your open chords, bar chords, all that, and you're like, I want to do something that's a little more creative. So put your, I'm just going to go back to standard real quick here. And I'll show you how to put your guitar in DADGAD, and then I'll show you a super simple way to play a 1-4-5 progression in D with DADGAD using just one finger, so you can start to get some exposure to it and just start messing around with it. It's a really fun experiment. So, okay, let's say that's close. Close, right? So standard tuning, first off, I would take this D, the string that's normally D, and use that as a reference, and drop my low E string down a whole step. Get as close as I can. It's 1 octave lower. So if you're into rock at all, it's just like drop D on the bottom 3 strings. Yeah. So you end up with this nice power chord on the bottom, and it's really good for getting a drone in there. The whole time I was playing that song, that little low drone D was constantly in there. And since we have a high E string too, let's do the exact same thing with that. Drop it down 1 whole step to a D. And so far, we haven't really done much, just the outside 2 strings, which is really cool. And then the only other thing you have to remember is bring this B string one whole step down to an
And you can match it with.
A. So if you don't have a tuner with you, it's really easy to throw a guitar into DADGAD. Just hit the D, match these two strings to it, the high E's, and then hit the A. And then
You won't be perfect just because it'll throw the tension off on the other strings a
you'll
little
have
bit.
to do it a couple of times. I'm just going to use my tuner actually, but you will have to do it a couple times just because the neck will go a little wonky. But as soon as you do that, you automatically feel I'm on a slightly different guitar continent with this tuner. And all of a sudden, none of your shapes work at all
Play a G chord.
anymore.
Sounds like it's a thing.
Far cry from what it should be, right?
Absolutely.
Or what it normally would be. And see, like this D shape automatically, all of a sudden sounds like some kind of minor chord, which
does.
just messes with my brain.
Absolutely.
But the cool thing about this is like when I was coming up with this tune, I just heard something in my head from this vibe that I got of the open chords plus one finger, and then just heard a melody, and it's like, oh, how do I play that on here? I have no idea. I have to figure it out. So that's what ended up happening with that. So once you have your guitar in DADGAD, I'm going to tune one more time just to be kind to you guys. Once you have your guitar in DADGAD, I'm going to give you 3 simple chords that use one finger to play through what is essentially a 1-4-5 progression in the key of D. Okay. I'll pick. So open, like Andrew said, is some kind of D sus4 chord. When you put your index finger on the the second fret of the 3rd string, the G string, the 3rd, I'm going to call it the 3rd string, not the G string, just reference things by strings instead of notes here. That gives you essentially a glorified power chord, a D power chord. Right. D, A, D would be a G up to an A.
And then another A.
And then a D.
Just D's and A's the whole way.
D's and A's. So that's and this is done a lot. We were talking earlier, it's done a lot. Seems like with hymns and things like that, because a lot of hymns are just 1-4-5 progressions.
Nice.
And I was telling Andrew that like the day before my grandmother's funeral, they wanted me and my dad to play, and we're like, we don't have time to prepare anything. It's like the evening before. So like my dad's like, just throw your guitar in DADGAD, and we'll play Amazing Grace. So I was like, okay. And this was on, I was like, I don't know, maybe 19 or 20.
Okay.
So that's what we ended up doing. So that's what I'll show you how to do, just the chords we use for that. So index finger on the G string. And the cool thing about this, all the notes you need to fret are on the exact same fret. They're all on the 2nd fret. Super easy, like falling off of a truck. And you can play all 6 strings. Don't have to think about what strings you're hitting. The 4 chord, is just putting your 1st finger on the 2nd fret of the 5th string. And this is all in the PDF for you too. It has a diagram of the tuning DADGAD, and then it has these 3 chords and what exactly those chords are. What's the first one? I can't even remember. It's just the D power chord, and then the second one is just a G add 9. So it's a G with an A in it. Right. Okay, and then the 5 chord, as it would function in this case, is just an A7 sus4. And all you have to do is put your index finger on the 2nd fret of the D string, and that gives you your 5 chord, which is fantastic. Now just play through those quick. The 1 chord, 4, 5, So that is a good starting point, and we have some listening recommendations for you if you like this tuning.
Yeah. So we were looking around a little bit to see what kind of stuff was in DADGAD. The big one is Led Zeppelin Kashmir. That's like the big, well-known DADGAD song. Another one here is Ed Sheeran, Photograph, for people that like pop music.
I did not know that.
I actually didn't know that either. Let's see what else we got here. We got Ben Howard, a song called In Dreams. And you can find tabs if you go searching for these. Those are kind of the bigger ones. It's used in a ton of other stuff, but that's at least what's listed here.
Some of my favorite players that use this kind of idea, maybe not so much anymore, but Andy McKee, Don Ross, who is out here, uses it some. Phil Kagi uses it. Beppe getting better. All acoustic players, like either fingerstyle or like flat picking kind of stuff.
One of the things that I'll mention too, and I mentioned it before, is like how accessible it is. It's literally, I knew no theory. I knew how to play chords, basically chording technique. And just by learning like the super simple shapes, all of a sudden you can play like a 1-4-5 like you just did. And I'll show you quick the what I was showing Nate, which is the 1-4-5 and then the 6 as well, and a version that I was playing, which is to use, you don't have to use your thumb. I use my thumb when I do it. But all you have to do is you fret the E and A strings, which aren't that, they're D and A strings right now. The top two at the 5th fret, the 7th fret, and the 9th fret, but you actually play all the strings. So if I were to play like the traditional like 1-5-6-4 kind of progression in this, I could go. And if I wanted to be more interesting, I could do. And that gives you like a D major, a G major, an A major, and a B minor, kind of. There's a lot of open strings in there and stuff, and you'll mainly just be playing the lower strings. But it all of a sudden makes that tuning really easy. And it's really easy to play around with too, which is kind of nice.
Like the shapes I don't even think about when I play them in that tune, because you just like, oh, that's what I'm playing, is something like this. So you get the 3rd in there.
Totally. I see what you're doing.
But that's nasty to play. It took me a long time to be able to play that. You probably play with your thumb easier, I'd imagine, or at least partially.
Ooh, I don't know.
At least some of them, maybe, I don't know.
Is that what you're playing?
Like
oh, with
3. But it's really beautiful and it's like very harpy sounding. So.
Yeah, it's a really cool tuning. I encourage you guys all to try it. Just because it was the first experience for me, and I'm really scared of open tunings, I was saying before. If I ever learn how to play slide, you're supposed to use open tunes. I can't do it.
I don't like doing it. I like playing the standard when I'm playing the slide, when I play in slide, right?
Yeah.
When I butcher slide.
Okay, let's take a quick check, see if there's any questions. So far, nothing. We'll give you guys a couple more minutes to get in questions. Otherwise, I think that's it, right? A nice, quick, and easy lesson.
That's all I have for this. Like to me, a lot of DADGAD, after you get familiar with the initial first few shapes, it's just going and finding some music that you like and starting to learn it. So.
I've got one question here. Cool. This is from C Drive. Wait a minute. What's with one open knee, one closed knee look? I bought these pants like this.
I don't know.
They were like this already. Don't ask me.
They were like that when I got them. I didn't do it.
The S Wrestler says, "DADGAD, when said as a word, sounds like the first word my grandson said."
That guy. It does sound like baby talk. That is extremely true.
Absolutely. The cool thing about DADGAD is if you tune the G string down to an F sharp, you end up with open D major. Am I right in saying that? I believe.
I didn't hear
you take the G string and you go down to F sharp, and you're in open D, the tuning of open D major, right?
Let's find out. Yep. I've never done that before.
Yeah, which is pretty cool because especially if you're a slide player, that's the recommended starting tuning for a lot of people. So you can always try that. So you're just kind of like, I mean, you're half a step away on one string.
Yeah.
I showed Nate something today.
Let's see, get it back up.
Got a question here from Pujitsu. How about Nate plays Amazing Grace in DADGAD?
You want to try the melody and I'll just play the chords?
I'll try. I might mess it up, but I'll try.
I used to have an arrangement for this, but I haven't done it in so long that I've forgotten it. So I'll just play through.
Yeah. That worked out.
Yeah. I would have to work it out, but like you do it by yourself too.
Oh yeah, you were playing it by yourself before, yeah.
But I would butcher it from there on, so I won't do it any more than that. Because that high note, you either have to displace the octave for the high note, or come up with some other voicings that I'm not familiar enough with in DADGAD to do it properly.
Yeah. That makes sense. Another question here. This one is from D. Wessel. Sorry, I'm late. What type of music is this format?
We were just saying that it bleeds over into a lot of different stuff. Ed Sheeran does it. Led Zeppelin did it. A lot of acoustic fingerstyle and flat picking guitars did it. A lot of blues stuff.
You can do blues stuff in it, absolutely. I'm trying to think if there's, I mean, maybe you wouldn't see it in jazz.
I wouldn't think so. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm sure somewhere somehow somebody has done that.
The idea of those strings, I mean, relates it closely to a lot of heavier music, right? As well.
Heavier music, worship music.
I was telling Nate back in the days I used to do it for worship music all the time, stuff like that. Yeah. Next question.
Oh, good.
This is from I can't speak today. I'm sorry. Bearcat Bright. Bit of a tongue twister for some reason. Afternoon, guys. Why are songs in rock and other styles played down, say, a half step or a whole step?
Sounds meaner. Sounds more irritated and pissed off.
That's literally, basically what it is.
It's more aggressive. Yeah.
Also, at the same time, a lot of times it's just to try and fit the singer's voice. That's another thing too. Go ahead.
Like I don't know. Do you think it's? I don't know, because Stevie Ray Vaughan downtuned to E flat. I wonder what his motivation was.
One of them was to use thicker strings, because you could use heavier gauge strings, and then it sounded, like you said, meaner and thicker and bigger. I'm trying to think. There's another guy. I think Jimmy did as well. I think he might have played an E flat.
I don't know.
A really standard practice though is for recordings to be played in E standard, and then live for those same songs just to be played a half step down or a whole step down, like tuning wise.
Yeah.
So then the actual physical act of playing them is the same, but for the singer it's a little easier on their voice and stuff like that.
One of my favorite guitar players, Monty Montgomery, always tunes to E flat, unless he's in an alternate tuning.
I did for a while. Like I tried that whole thing. I think I was up at 13s on my Strat for a while, and it sounded really cool.
I I've never put anything but 12s on this guitar. I put 13s on it for this, and it's down tuned to DADGAD, and I really like the way it feels.
Yeah. And that compensates some of the tension that you lost from tuning down, right? The thicker strings are going to pull a little bit harder, so that makes sense. Okay,
Yeah, it was way too rattly.
Oh, it was too rattly? Yeah, I think my action's probably a little higher than yours.
Yeah,
which is why I'm not
this guitar
noticing
neck is like straight. There's barely any relief on it at all. So.
I have a significant amount of action on this guitar. Question in the chat here. I think this might be the last question. This is from C Drive. I'm thinking of getting a 000 12 fret acoustic. Any thoughts?
I am thinking of buying one for my wife as soon as I get the money. It's not 000. It's the 352 or 312, whatever the Taylor is. It's a 12 fret Taylor.
I think that's like related to a 00.
Yeah,
right?
it's essentially the same thing.
Yeah.
It's Taylor's version of like a 12 fret 000 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It depends if you like a smaller, more mid-rangey sound, or if you like a bigger sound.
Yeah.
You're not going to get as much low end out of it, but it's the scale on is probably shorter.
I believe
it's a little bit more slinky to play. You're going to get a little bit more mid-range, less bass, and it's going to be smaller to get your arm around. So a lot of people like that.
One of my favorite guitars of all time is a Martin All Mahogany 00.
Yep.
And I like the 00 because I'm skinny, so the smaller guitar doesn't look quite as ridiculous on me. But I also just love the sound. My good friend has a Gibson 00 from 1937. And it's got this super beefy neck, can't adjust the truss rod in it anymore. And it sounds absolutely amazing for its own thing. It's not going to be for bluegrass. It's got its own thing going on, but man, it's such a cool guitar. And smaller acoustics, they're a different beast, right? They're not better or worse. They're just completely different. Play different stuff on
Yeah,
them.
it depends what your goals are for me. If you like a lot of fingerstyle stuff or a lot of strumming, and you don't need all that bass for like bluegrass or really folky stuff where the guitar is like featured in me. I don't know. That's not even true. Like a lot of folk guitarists use small guitars, like parlors.
Absolutely, and I know the original kind of like way back in the day blues guys. A lot of those guys played on the old Gibson knockoffs and the old small body Gibsons. That was like a huge thing. Like Robert Johnson.
They just get that honky mid range that's a little swampy, and sometimes you want it for cutting through the mix and stuff.
Exactly. Okay. I see no more questions.
Okay, I'm going to tune up.
I am also going to tune up because if we're not perfectly in tune with each other, this is going to sound ridiculous.
Stereo tuning.
I know, that was weird.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
1, 2,